PHA is trying to raise issues of the voiceless people in the Horn of Africa. My name is Workene Torban, and I will be hosting tonight's discussion on the current issues of the Ethiopian Empire. My guest for today is Dr. Rundasa Ishete. Dr. Rundasa is a self-employed economist, I guess. He has done a lot about the Oromo political struggle since he was like 16 or less. He can correct me. He has written books about the chronic and unfair structural and systematic marginalization against the Oromo people. I read one of his incredible books called The Venomous Love of Ethiopia. By the way, I enjoyed most of Dr. Rundasa's courageous speech because he speaks his mind. That is wonderful, especially his vision to make things in a novel way is my favorite. Welcome, Dr. Rundasa.
Thank you very much, Tunde. Thank you for inviting me. And I didn't know you read my book.
Yeah, I read 3 years ago.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Then I'll write more.
Right. Thank you for coming. Okay, today's program is not really question and answer. We're gonna just talk about what is going on in the Ethiopian Empire. Okay?
Yeah.
As you know, we do see unique international crimes, human rights violations in the Ethiopian Empire, especially very recently, unprecedented inhumanity, which the world is witnessing. And the conflict in Ethiopia has been between peaceful citizens and armed groups, illegal groups, especially the military, the illegal military of Abiy Ahmed, Abin and Izema. These groups are sponsored by the Abiy government himself. We just heard the US government, European Union and the United Nations Security Council are just working on some documents to hold these criminals accountable. At this point, it's really very clear why the peaceful citizens are targeted by these illegal criminals. Dr. Rundasa, what do you think about the Ethiopian election? Let's start from there.
Well, it's not just sham election. To begin with, the current group that is leading the country, let's say it's leading, but really there is no leadership. At any event, they've been adamant about staying in power, and these two groups, Branu Naga and Abiy's groups, they've been working together when the TPLF was in power. So they had, they've even admitted that they gave him this political map, roadmap. Basically, that's what one of the guys, I think the Secretary General of the Zen Gimbot 7 group. So they gave him this roadmap, a political roadmap, which is basically the destination of it is, where the design of Minilik, which is assimilationist Ethiopian political discourse, where since 1800, since that empire was formed, so the process, they've been trying to assimilate the Eritreans, they're trying to assimilate with the help of Orthodox Church, of course, and then they try to assimilate the Oromos, which, we all were baptized into this Amharic. There's no, per se, there's no Amhara, but the we all became Amharic speakers. In a way, we end up developing a sense of inferiority complex because we've been ridiculed at school, at public gathering, at the playground as a kid. So we try to run away from ourselves, but few people questioned that environment, that situation, and say, how about we still be an Oromo, and also Tigrans being Tigrans, Eritreans being Eritreans, still have this arrangement to what they call, the rest of the world live by, where there is the United States of America, where there is a federalism. Each state will have its own say in the central government. So whether it's UK or UAE, this arrangement has been used around the globe, including the vicious Soviet Union that broke up. Now, of course, in all those 15 states became independent. So at any rate, all I'm trying to say is the political and social fabric of the Oromo people have been impacted by this old arrangement, and people whose mindset remained thinking the old way still want to keep that old way, because that's what they think is the right way to manage this so-called unity. So there's this election, or that in 2018, when the Oromo Liberation Front returned from Eritrea, being invited, saying you guys will be allowed to campaign freely. You'll be given an office, even budget, and nothing will happen to you. All we care about is now peace. From now on, we're gonna close those investigation center, infamous Maakalawi, and other prisons will be closed, and it will convert it into school. So all this stuff. Suddenly, when the Oromo Liberation Front returned back to Finfinne, I was one of the people who went back and so happy. But eventually, they saw the size of the population that came into Finfinne to celebrate the return of the Oromo Liberation. Then they really panicked. The so-called Amharic speakers, and which Abiy, who now speaks of an Oromo as well as Amharic, I don't think. Ethnically, I don't think he's an Oromo. Of course, he speaks Amharic. So all this mess, now they want to stay in power at any cost. And so therefore, they will kill anybody left and right. You remember Achalu Ndesa being killed, and Jawar Mohammed was in jail, and people like Bakala Garba and others, countless people. So all this historical setup that was set up by Menelik, which Abiy at the beginning started praising the guy, saying, he's one of the ideal person that he would follow, including Haile Selassie. So there is no election. It's just basically it's a pretending sort of like a children play.
Yeah. Actually, I hear somebody saying it's a void election without OLF and OFC. Right. Because as you know, OLF in particular is the honest political organization. That's actually the biggest ideology that almost all Oromo people believed in. And without these huge people, there is no election. And I think they are right, it's a void election. Thank you so much for your inputs on this. And I want to show you some interesting videos of Abiy Ahmed, what he did in Kenya regarding OLF. And it's very interesting. OLF has proved that they have very clear policy that includes equality for all people in that empire. Peace and mutual coexistence. However, Abiy Ahmed was saying something else. Let me share with you what he said in Kenya.
Yeah, play.
Everything we are aspiring to transform the life of our people. If we could eliminate oil from this region, you can see how.
So
for everything we are aspiring.
So that's what he said, and that was in Kenya. As you can see the image, let me share with you the image. Look at this guy. He is trying to eliminate these millions of people who were celebrating the coming of OLF in 2018. OLF is the biggest ideology that almost 60 million Oromos are behind this political party, political organization. When he say, I'm gonna eliminate OLF, don't you think that he's just trying to eliminate 60 million Oromos?
Well, the guy's typical childish, somebody whose brain is functioning with usual Habesha, the so-called Amharic speakers' tendencies that are always a trouble for us, for not only the Oromo, but for the 80 something plus ethnic groups that live in Empire Ethiopia today. They always, all they know is eliminating. During the military government growing up, the songs, the gatherings and dramas, you would go to National Theater or some other areas that they were showing people how they crash all this. Anybody who opposes or stands on their way, so they have to show forces. And I still recall vividly, I remember vividly every song that we grew up listening. So that mindset, this guy's indoctrinated in that environment. So being a hero, being an acceptable national figure, it just requires anybody whose orientation is founded on this Amharic speakers' worldview is just exactly, because living under this kind of environment, thinking in that kind of mindset is a norm, the norm of the governance. So this guy cannot know anything outside of that. And his mother raised him. He's been telling us, ever since he came to power, saying that his mother told him he's going to be a king, number 7 or whatever king that Ethiopia is going to have. So kingdom, obviously, a king cannot accept, cannot accept federal government, because one thing, they are fearful of others' voices, others' freedom. And so if Abiy says, I'm going to eliminate the Oromo Liberation Front, the Oromo Liberation Front is a very large organization. About 50, 60 million Oromos belong to it. Basically, it's a sentiment that a way of rejecting that Amharic speakers' norm and values that has been established, degrading. If you have dark skin color, you be called Shangilla or slave, Bare. If you had a kinky hair, you're not considered to be a human. If you are poor, or even by profession, this Minilik's norm, this Habesha norm, always promoted that, for example, if you are a smith, you're degraded. In Ethiopia, you cannot make a knife. You're just the most inferior. If you are carving wood, you are the untouchable of India, where it's almost a curse to even talk to you, or sharing food with you, or sharing the same building. So I grew up watching all that, and people who carve a wood like a stool, these 3-legged chairs, eating outside, they're not allowed. That's a norm that these people want to establish. So anyone or any group, any party, any organization that challenges this kind of, the crashing of that evil, backward, arrogant norm and values that existed in 1600 back in England, where there is a king and then there is a serf, and the peasant who never been considered as humans live under. So now you want to go back to that. The problem with Abiy, not only the norm that he really thinks that the right way to, life has to be that way, but he is also delusional. In a way, I don't think he can even hear himself when he talks. He's almost like it's a pathological liar. I don't think he remembers what he said yesterday. I don't, maybe hours later he would not. Then he could imitate anybody. He watches something on a video. Tomorrow he would say it. In fact, he reminds me of Idi Amin's president. I don't know if you remember reading or watching a movie. Idi Amin Dada, the guy from Uganda. He would he would make white people, the Britain, to kneel down in front of him when they talk to him. They would have to, otherwise he would kill them. And then if you are a swimmer, famous Ugandan swimmer or a boxer, you have to agree to lose to Idi Amin. So you kind of pretend you are competing, but you have to kind of lag behind him so that he can win. In this case, Abiy, he would imitate anything, whether it's marketing speech he copies from YouTube or, any other media, that he would just talk about it. And I remember recently he was sitting in front of the parliament and telling the people that we are very wealthy nation, that we have enough salt resources, and if we go to the mountain and spread the salt, then the rain continuously coming down. I've never heard of chemistry or anything, biochemistry, be able to do that. I've never heard of it. Otherwise, Americans would have done that to get rain in Nevada, maybe. So he's delusional, and he's also psychopath. Psychopathic people who only hear themselves, whatever he's thinking. So if you were to teach, let's say, a verse out of Bible, and you are a pastor, next morning he will teach you. He will preach you. He will turn around and preach you. So mind you, the Oromo Liberation Front, having that kind of, at least 10 million people came out to celebrate the return of the Oromo Liberation Front in 2018. Now he want to kill all these people. Of course, they opened up so many concentration camps after the TPLF has been gone. For example, Sankale is just by Ambo, about 6 kilometers west. That's now, you found like at least 10,000 people being jailed in that military camp. And then recently they created another one it's called the Bulbula in Arsi, nobody knows. So people, anybody who's suspected, not because they made any mistake or they protested or anything, just for being suspected, they go to that concentration camp. And the punishment, not only hanging bottled water on people's, on males' penises, but they actually punish you by denying you water and food. I talked to a woman, a young lady yesterday, who called me from home. She just got released just 6 months, being there for about 6-8 months. She just got released yesterday. And she said they've been punished 10 days with no food and water. Unless you promise to support the so-called Prosperity Party. So when, if you look back when we were kids, almost this so-called Amharic speakers' norm and value became a way of life, acceptable norm to everyone. And now when you question, you are a bad person. So Abiy had to at least say his dream, his wishes, going to Kenya, and then eventually he would speak in Oromo language. I remember that speech. At the end of the speech, after he said, I want to eliminate the Oromo Liberation Front, in fact, he was speaking at the end of English language. He spoke in Oromo because there are large Oromo group in Kenya, elected officials, asked him in Oromo, knowing he speaks of an Oromo, our language. So this guy is mentally ill, a mentally sick person, but one way or the other, can he eliminate the Oromo people? So he has to kill 50 million people in order to eliminate the Oromo Liberation Front. So that's why I call him delusional.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much. Actually, that is impossible to eliminate that many people, it's just an illusion. Because you remember what Mullah said? He said, whenever the Oromo people says enough is enough, then we have to go. That's what he said.
It's ending. Well,
that's what happened.
Definitely. The problem with not only Abiy, there are like, if you take Orthodox church pope or priest or somebody from North, Gondar, Gojam, somebody or people who consider themselves Amhara, women or man, young or old, they have this ideals, that started during the Menelik time era. It needs to be reinforced at any cost. It has to be reinforced. The propaganda, the song, the church. Look at the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, for example. What flag are they holding?
That's
everywhere the church has its Menelik's flag. When they go out, just a day before yesterday, I think, in Washington, D.C., they were protesting, supporting Menelik. I mean, this younger Menelik, which is Abiy. Yeah. So supporting him, it says, actually, one of the women saying in Amharic, I remember, I just watched it on Facebook today. She says, Amhara region police force has to go everywhere and kill those who resist the Ethiopian unity. That's what she said. And then the slogan says, there is no woman raped in Tigray. How do they know? Are they, they've been there and they walked all over Tigray and just counted of the 5-6 million Tigrayans and figured out, or what is their evidence? So these delusional people are the evil of that empire and our pain. So this propaganda, even capitalism or socialism has to be converted into the Amhara or Ethiopianist version in order for that system to be adapted. Even capitalism needs to be, you have to convert that version, any system, whether it's socialism, whether it's communism, whether it's capitalism, or like you and I expected to convert into that norm. Every idea that comes from outside needs to be tweaked into the Orthodox Church worldview, which is the superiority of one tribe. It's not even a tribe. And yet, those people, I call them delusional, because they would say, hey, we are the most civilized people, which Abiy also repeated recently, if you remember. Abiy was saying Ethiopia will be number 2 country in the world, next to the United States, I think, with having nuclear weapon, having this great influence around the world. Not Russia, not even European Union, not even Japan, not even China. Ethiopia will be number 2 country.
According to
need veto some how do you put it? I don't even know. He says, I don't know. He didn't have to have any evidence how Ethiopia, the beggar, the poorest country on the face of the earth, suddenly under his rule, in 5 years, being transformed into this, the force to reckon with in 5 years.
By the way, what is the difference between the Ethiopian empire and the Somali land right now? These nations are lawless and they don't have the real government. If you look at the capacity of the leadership in Ethiopia, it's just only in the capital. They cannot go out of the capital and just they talk on the media. That's their leadership. All the other regions there's no real leadership. There's no.
Actually, I would disagree with you when it comes to Somalia. Reason is, in Somalia, you have your gun, you defend your rights, you defend what you want. Every tribe has representative in the so-called, under Formaggio's leadership. Every tribe of Somalia is represented. Elderly were represented, and also, or anywhere on the street, you are allowed to have gun, then you can exchange a dollar or Turkish money on the street in Mogadishu, and the economy is growing crazy, like 6, 7, 8%. It's almost like at the New York. The real estate value in Mogadishu is the same value as New York today. So Somalia, you have the right to arm, you have the right to speak, you have the right to representation. So that version of Somalia, maybe it's a localized Somali version democracy. Maybe that's why we don't call it democracy. But when it comes to so-called Ethiopia, it's a crime for you to even speak Amharic. How many girls, how many boys, how many people were killed on the street? How many people are harassed for speaking Oromo language in our own capital city? That is in the heart, of Oromia.
Let me remind you what Abiy said 2 years ago when he was appointed as the Prime Minister of the Empire. He said EPRDF was the terrorist organization. It's not the people who was terrorist. The government was the terrorist. But when you look at his leadership, it's only EPRDF minus TPLF. And when you look at the crimes happening on the ground, it is maybe multiplied 1,000 times. So when you hear those people who were protesting in DC yesterday, they were supporting this guy. Don't you think that they are supporting terrorists, the most terrorist group in the world? Because they already told that the previous government was a terrorist, and these guys are doing way more than what the previous regime was doing.
Well, like I said earlier, this superfluous, superficial Ethiopianism or even educational curriculum that we were indoctrinated by makes people think that way. There are a lot of people who actually see the Habesha norm being so fearful of multiculturalism. Because if multiculturalism is applied, for example, Oromo language is adopted as a second or working language or a national language, or Tigrayan language or other languages, they're so scared. Plus, they think that it's not considered to be a norm. Normal. What is normal? What's acceptable? What is a cultural value that you ought to have or ought to accept as a standard of that nation is Amharic or their religious values. Therefore, everybody who comes out to support Abiy anywhere else, whether it's in Europe or in Washington, D.C., that is what they are having in mind. Multiculturalism means is a distraction to what? To their norms, to their values. So you have to die. You have to go to jail. You have to suffer. You need to be eliminated. Like Abiy was saying, we have to eliminate the Oromo Liberation Front. So any question, any doubts, it's like religious. It's a cult. It's not thinking. There is no rationale to it. So they are emotional about it. They'll cry. So mind you, just remember, what of the Oromo narratives are? Menelik mutilated Oromo woman's breast, cut off 5 million Oromo men and women, arms and breast. So this guy, not only he's a terrorist, he's a savage. He's an animal. Hitler actually in many ways is much better than this black Hitler, black evil. And yet they still worship that guy. His statue is still erected. Now, recently when this American guy was killed by a police in Minnesota, you remember the whole world, Western Europe and America, there was a protest all over the state.
Yeah.
If you come to Salt Lake right now and walk around, you see his picture and other black people who've been killed by the police, white police. And so but Black Lives Matter. So what happened in England? What happened in America? They toppled the racist slave traders statues, right? Now,
Yes.
in Finne, in your own heart of Oromia, Minilik's statue still erected. And Abiy, right after he came to power, weeks later, what did he do? He reconstructed Minilik's statue inside the palace. He renovated it. And he also put Haile Selassie and who knows who. But anyway, he spent so much money and so much time reconstructing those evil individuals' identity and views.
Right. So, Dr. Rundasa, we have seen incredible crime in Tigray, and we have been looking at observing so many crimes happening in Oromia, and recently they dismantled all the infrastructure and hospitals, schools, everything in Tigray. And we hear that the Prime Minister was planning to eliminate oil. And recently we heard the same kind of speech by his official called Ikaru Tasamma. I have his clip. Let me try to share with you.
You still have the other movie on your screen. I don't know how you will remove it.
Okay, let me.
I still have that.
Yeah, I don't know why that happened. Okay. Okay. Stop share. Okay, let me share screen. This guy. Can you see him?
Yeah, I've watched this video earlier a week ago, not today, but just a week ago.
Yeah, he said something very interesting. Let's hear what he said, because it is something like confirming what Abiy was talking in Kenya.
Hojiiwwan kun yoo hojjetan malee ammas dhimmoonni xiyyeeffannaa barbaadan jiru. Gaafii keessan irratti tokko tokko akkan argetti duuntaa guyyaa 15 keessatti mo'attanii dhuguma baa'oo shanii maaliif dadhabdanii humna dadhabdaniiti moo humna waan hin qabaanneef moo maal inni kan jedhu ka'ee jiraachaa. Konvenshinal waar kan ta'ee fi riphee lolaa kan jedhamu kun garaagarummaa mataa isaa illee qaba. Konvenshinal waar kan ta'e meeshaa gurguddaa qabatee birgeedidhaan maaliif fuula duratti kan waraanu jechuudha. Amalli kaabarratti ture kamatu. Saraawitiidhaan jechaadha raayyaan. Riphee lolaa akkasii miti amalli isaa. Loojistiikii uummata keessaa argata. Guyyaa guyyaa siviilii ta'a. Uummata wajjin oolaa waltajjii isin gaggeessan keessa hin oolu. Odeeffannoon argata. Nama dubbatuun ilaala. Galgala deemee tarkaanfii suukanneessaa irratti fudhata. Amalli isaa baay'ee wal xaxaadha. Kana balleessuun kan danda'amu akkuma qurxummii keessa. Qurxummii Paasifikii yookiin Atlaantik Ooshinii keessa guurtee hin dandeessu. Guutumatti balleessuu yoo danda'ame bishaanicha gogsu.
Can you hear what he said?
I heard it, yeah.
So you're saying you cannot clear fish out of Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean.
Yeah, you can stop sharing now. Your screen.
Okay. So, okay, share. All right.
Yeah.
You cannot eliminate fish unless you dry Atlantic Ocean or Pacific Ocean. That's what he's saying. That clearly implies in order to eliminate OLF, you have to eliminate the Oromo people. Exactly what Abiy said in Kenya. What do you think about that?
Well, so, you know, I just, you know, was talking about how Abiy, the objective for which he stood was clear from day one. That's why he was calling for the elimination. He went to Kenya. That's why he's calling for the elimination of the Oromo Liberation Front. That's why he was killing people on the street everywhere, including artists and young people, women and men. That's why concentration camps were built all over the place, and at least 60, 70,000, at least according to my record, Oromos alone has been jailed. He in fact eliminated some of the Tigrayan generals as well, if you recall, because he was resistant. This General Saira Makonnen, I think, was resistant to the idea of invading Tigray. So overall, you look at that, the objective of maintaining the status quo, of extending the Menelik era system into the future was in his mind. That was the roadmap he's being given. That's what the study circle he was recruited to promote. So basically, if you listening to this guy, it reminds me of Sergeant Naggasa Asfaw under the communist military government. This is word to word. That's what he said. He said, if we want to eliminate the Eritrea liberation movement, or Tigray liberation and the Oromo liberation movement, we have to dry the source. We have to dry it. This is word to word. That's is a copy of it. But where did these people get this from? Back during the communist military government, I remember this newspaper called the Workers' Party. It's called the Workers' Party newspaper. It's called in Amharic. Sartwadder.
Sartwadder, yeah.
Yes. So what the Central Committee members and those people who coin out words and such as study circles would write that, and then they disperse it out from top all the way down to the branches of the study circles. Then everybody will say the same thing. Whatever Mengistu says, Mengistu Haile Mariam says, the leader of one village or like a community leadership would say, the youth association leader would say, the women association and the farmers association leader would say. So this boy here, you called him whatever his name is, mind you, these were people, a collection of peasants and uneducated, basically rent seekers who
hopeless.
Yeah, so these guys were trained by the TPLF because the TPLF itself back in 1991 did not want thinkers, people who ask questions. They didn't want. So they trained this kind of people. Who would they indoctrinate? Who would they, through their what they call Gimgama system, they would indoctrinate them. And basically they repeat word to word, without any deviation of a sort. Word to word, they will say that. So this guy basically spits out what he'd been fed by this psychopath Abiy. Now, the challenge here is this: when it comes to Oromo, you can, you've been following. I'm sure you've been following what's going on within these past weeks. Every media, United Nations, the American government, and the European Union, and all of them are talking about Tigrayans, the rape in Tigray, the savage killing in Tigray, but they never mentioned the death and the destruction, the burning of the house, the rape of the woman. In fact, they even used the helicopter in Western Oromia back like 2-3 years ago. No one ever says a word about Oromo. Why? Because people like this boy here, people like Abiy, appear to be Oromo. They say we represent the Oromo. They were Oromo Opidio members under the TPLF who have been killing people even for the past 27 years. They are the yes man. There's no question asked, or they will be eliminated. Now, Abiy knew who to reject, who to eliminate even out of that group and who to keep. So if you look at this guy, he's, I think, the head of the Prosperity Party, whatever. They changed the name to that. By the way, the Oromo people, whatever the TPLF built, changed its name to Oromo Democratic Party, and then months later they changed their name to Prosperity Party, which is a church name. Now the same people. So Abiy really handpicked the best puppet. This guy, this man, whatever he does say, is Abiy's brain is sitting inside him and make him talk. So it's not independent. I feel sorry for these people. They have no ideology. They have no humanity. They have no pride as a human being. So I don't even know if we have to listen to their jargons, this garbage things they're spitting out, because there is no solution they would offer the nation that is suffering economically, politically, individually, as a group, as an individual, as a group, as a team. Everybody's suffering. You look at the economy, look at peace. There's no peace. Anybody can be killed anywhere.
Let me ask you this. Remember what had been happening during the TPLF leadership, and now it became the worst. But only the old leadership is EPRDF minus TPLF. And when you look at how the US government, European Union, and United Nations is responding to the current situation in that empire, they are all talking about TPLF. They never mention about Oromia or the Oromo people. But when you look at the fundamental issue in that empire is just the question of the Oromo people. And when you look at the armed group in that empire, as the UN and European Union, and of course the US themselves mentioned that the Amhara militia, as well as the
Eritrean,
Shabian government and military, these groups are, they have almost said that they are terrorizing the region. Okay, but if you look at the OLA, Oromo Liberation Army, or WOBO in Afan Oromo, these are the only armed group with the highest discipline of the armed military, because they never target peaceful people and any person with any ethnic background. They never target that kind of person. They only fight with the armed group, those who are terrorizing our people. Why these international communities are not recognizing OLA as part of the solution? Because the Oromo people, about 60 million people, have no protection, because the Amhara militia killing them, the National Army, the mobs of Abiy Ahmed killing them, and the Shabia military killing them. But the majority of the empire citizens, they don't have protection. They need to have protection. And the only armed force that can protect these people can be OLF, actually OLA, Oromo Liberation Army. Why these international communities are not recognizing and legitimizing the question of OLA to protect these people? What is their problem? It's just the question of protecting human life. It doesn't matter whether they are Tigray or Oromo or Benishangul or Sidama or Keman, but somebody should protect them. Why are ignoring these majority of the empire, but only just listening to the illegal armed group? What is their problem?
Look back a few years. Just look back a few years, what we've been saying against the United States of America, when America invaded, looking for Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and Iraq and also Libya. Many people criticizing the United States under Bush, President Bush, saying, what made America the police of the world? They have no business involving in other countries' internal affairs, which also is part of the United Nations Convention that many other countries cannot involve in other countries' internal affairs. So if that was the case, when Russia was murdering, killing thousands of Chechens, the United States didn't involve in it because that's considered to be Russian internal affairs. When India now, because of Kashmir, in changing the original arrangement and now bringing the Kashmir by force into India and trying to put under the Hindu influence, United States or Western Europe cannot say much about it because it's the same when something happens in America, other countries cannot say much. In fact, recently during the election, when Trump was kind of friendly with Putin in the Soviet, Russia, many people condemned Russia for sabotaging or involving in American election affairs. And actually, during the impeachment against Trump, they were, that was one of the issues that came for Russia involving in American inside affairs. So that said, on the other side, if you look at India, recently during the vote against, like in the United States, in the United Nations meeting, there are countries that opposed to American proposal to intervene in Tigray recently. Why? Who are the countries? Russia, China, India. Now, if you take each country and analyze why are they opposing against Americans' proposal to evolve in between Tigray and enforce at least or stop humanitarian crisis in the region, they are opposing because they have their own problem. India has its own internal problem with between either Pakistan or because of Kashmir, between Hindu and other Muslim, stuff like that. So if another country advocates for one ethnic group or one religion or one region within the country, then they have to be careful because that is a convention every country agreed not to involve in other countries' internal affairs until the issue rises beyond and turns into ethnic cleansing, like they've been saying in Tigray. Now, look back into 1990s Yugoslavian issue, where under Clinton, the United States had to go and jump in the middle. Of course, all members of the United Nations approved the peacekeeping mission to be sent over, same as Rwanda, also in Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia. Catastrophe, mind you, 800,000 people being killed in between Tutsi and Hutu. So this is huge, two distinct ethnic groups when they fight each other and one ethnic group is killing the other. In our case, though, it seems like the current psychopath guy obviously pretends as if he's an Oromo and representing an Oromo. So it looks like, at least it gives an image, or sort of like Oromos are taking on the Tigrayans in the form of revenge for Tigrayans being in power for 27 years. So that appearance made the Western countries to worry much about ethnic cleansing. So when you come inside Oromo, the guy in power is an Oromo, or the group that is leading considered to be an Oromo. And then the Oromo Liberation Army is also an Oromo. So it's almost like a local issue instead of or ethnic cleansing matters.
But don't you think that these guys understand the fact that Abiy is just trying to cover himself with Oromuma, although he's not really the Oromo.
Well, look, you can argue with so multi-dimensional ways about him being an Oromo. You know, it will be just your word or my word against his word, and he can say, you know, who
How
are
about his action? His action. There is a strategy that TPLF used and he's still using. It's called camouflaging. I mean,
well,
he covered himself something else,
yeah.
but with
But
Oromuma
that
or
you
with
have to take care of it. You and I had to take responsibility and organize ourselves to get rid of your own oppressor. You know, the same stories in Egypt, for example, the youth movement overthrew, or even another Arab country. What is it? Tunisia.
Tunisia.
Tunisia. Yes, even in our case, the Cairo movement, the Oromo youth movement, toppled the TPLF. But now, when this guy came into power, because they spoke Oromo language, also he was a spy. He knew the structure. He knew who is who. Then he had to eliminate or jail or force them to exile those people who, for example, 560 people just died in Yemen. These people are fearful of Abiy, and so they have to run to a war zone, another war zone, and die there, lose their lives. So all I'm saying is, this is a matter. The Oromo Liberation Army movement is many people, whether it's the West or East, anyone, whether it's Arab or China, they see it as internal affairs of one nation. Remember when China killed over 20,000 young people in one of the biggest square young people protested back in the 90s? And nobody said a thing. And now, the Tibet wanted to be liberated, or Hong Kong don't want a Chinese dominance. Nobody says anything. So in reality, it's complex, and so we cannot blame the West. But honestly, like for example, Herman Cohen recently wrote. I read his Twitter. I read this morning, I think. He said, "Abiy, you need to resign." I mean, these people are doing what they can. And those people who pay more attention.
Actually, I read his tweet 3 or maybe around 6 months ago. He said, since Abiy came to power, there has been a very shocking crime going on in Oromia in collaboration with the the Shabian troops. So he witnessed what is going on in Oromia.
Because Herman Cohen has been in charge of the East, he's the head of the East African. Originally, he's the one who helped even the TPLF to assume power. But he also understands the socioeconomic and cultural plight of the Oromo people, or even the empire as a whole. But the problem is, he speaks as an individual, as an expert, not as a government. But what is about the TPLF is, of course, they have lobbyists, they have the money, they had a connection because they've been in power. But none of the Oromo, we don't have money, we don't have lobbyists, we cannot spend millions of dollars a week and buy a lobby the same as TPLF does. In fact, Eritrea is losing the diplomatic war to the TPLF as much as Abiy did, because these two people do not have that much network. They don't have that access that TPLF had established at least for 27 years. So, and plus the TPLF had a lot of experience. Of course, they have a distinct culture. They've been through the war and won in 1991, and they're regrouping and they're fighting again, and definitely they will win. And so do the Oromo, because this is the first time in our history ever that we decided to fight for our rights and reestablish our cultural values that has been shattered for almost a century and a half. So
I just read an article that was proposed to the US Senate with few groups, senators. It is all about Tigray.
yes,
But when you look at the bigger picture of the problem, it includes Oromo, it includes Benishangul, Kimant, Sidama, and so on. I mean, even if they are just trying to help the Tigray and the Tigray people, why don't they think about the realistic way of solving the problem? Uh, TPLF had been on power and there has been huge issues. So in order to resolve the issue, they have to just deal with the bigger scope of the problem. And that is really unfortunate.
no,
They leave.
I think it's a wrong. I mean, your expectation is, I think, is just too idealistic, because to begin with, let's just say, ask one another why the Western are more concerned than China or Russia or the UAE that is bombarding, had bombarded. I mean, using a drone against the Tigrayans. So in reality, the Western involve or talk about our affairs not for your benevolence, not to help you, not for humanity. I don't think they are looking for economic opportunity, expansion of market and export and import. So they want a stable region, a stable country. In order to do that, they just have to deal with someone who can stabilize, by fix or crook, stabilize the country he or she is leading. In Empire Ethiopia's case, in Abiy's case, Abiy could not stabilize the country, either by force or through his deceptive lies. So everyone despised him. A guy from Rwanda called him childish. A guy from Kenya called him stupid, childish. And then America's Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, went to Sudan. And Abiy took a plane and just arrived in Khartoum, was uninvited. And
he said, you are a pathological liar.
Yeah, he called him a pathological liar, which he is. So when you have a person like that in power, you want to replace him with someone who can actually stabilizing that area, and so that there is human resources, natural resources, and whatnot available to them. So Western involvement is all about interest, and they shift. They can change. If Abiy improves, for example, if he accepts what they're saying, definitely they'll work with him. Maybe that's what you're going to see soon. But
the Oromos will keep saying no. If Oromos say no, that region will never, ever be stabilized.
But then, if you, as an Oromo, become strong and assume power next time, getting rid of this sick man, then they will deal with you. They will negotiate with you. They've been dealing with Haile Selassie for how many years? 50 something years. Haile Selassie was killing people, hanging people everywhere. They dealt with Saddam Hussein, or even this stupid guy from Libya. They were dealing with all kinds of dictators. But eventually, when that dictator turns against them, they punish him. So Abiy had gone beyond repair. You look at him he has no good reputation. The guy's a liar, addicted to lying. He's so addicted. So, somebody who's addicted to lying and would not remember what he lied yesterday about, and then he would lie again. So everybody's insulting him. And yet the guy, his brain is not recording. He has no supporter of any sort, except those delusional people like him, whose mind is basically delusion, like the so-called
narrow.
Yeah.
So what do you say to those diplomats, whether they are Oromo or international diplomats, who are not really working on a realistic approach to solve the issues of the Horn of Africa?
Well, the diplomats are appointed individuals that are there to work, and they live comfortable life. Most of them. I happen to know most of them. Maybe at least 50% of the individuals I've known are not educated. They're not humanist. They're there to represent even the TPLF. Remember, they represented the Tigray Liberation Front for 27 years. The same people are still there, except they are reshuffled. Somebody from Djibouti was taken to Abu Dhabi, or and then from Abu Dhabi to Germany or whatnot. And then others who used to be government officials, Ministry of Justice or President of Commercial Bank of Ethiopia, now they're appointed to Germany or somewhere else, just to distance them. But those people are molded and shaped, educated, and made who they are. And they cannot think beyond, outside of that box, and they're comfortable. Whether you die, people starve. By the way, the people, our family, 100 kilogram, any sort of grain was now 5,500 birr. Chicken, just one chicken was 200 or 300, 400. An egg. One egg worth 200. One single orange worth, 50 birr. This is where people are living in a hell. In hell. So, so nobody will come for your rescue, whether to rescue your cultural heritage or your socioeconomic problems. Nobody would come for it. You will try to reinforce the Menelik or the EPRDF system, not even EPRDF, sorry, the Menelik era system. And it's up to us to fight whether we declare our own independence as Oromians, or whether we are going to adopt this multiculturalism, at least on paper, that started by the TPLF, but never been materialized for 27 years.
Yeah, as you know, especially in Western culture, especially in US, if somebody speaks dangerous statements like what Abiy said in Kenya and what that guy, Kabito Sama, said, that's a very shocking sign of danger, because Abiy said he's planning to eliminate OLF, that basically represent 60 million people, citizens. And this guy said, in order to eliminate fish, you have to just drain out the Atlantic Ocean, which he means he wants to eliminate 60 million people in order to get rid of OLF. And this is the sign of a very disturbing, imminent threat to these people. But we don't really hear somebody speaking, especially those UN, US, and European group. They never said anything about these very big issues in that region, because it is all about 60 million people, more than 2/3 of the empire's citizens. What do you say to those who are ignoring the sign of huge danger to these people?
Oh, like I said, I don't think anybody has the right to policing or to censoring what dictators say around the world, or the puppets. Like in this case, this boy who said he has to drain the ocean. Yeah, he's just simply a puppet. He was told to say it, he would say it. But what is really, really, really we need to focus on is the foundation of their thinking. How they came to about or at least trying to reconstruct what is the foundation of their thinking, even without understanding the consequences of it. So if the principal function of their ideas requires suppression and discrimination and killing or arresting and jailing and punishing people. That's what they would do until they've been pushed off power, being, you know, by any group being organized. But
yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Rundasa. I think we have to finish. We'll come back to what happened after these guys spoke publicly to eliminate the Oromo people. But for now, in Ethiopia, there is no legitimate power to maintain peace and security. The armed group under the Abiy leadership and the Shabian army are committing crimes, war crimes actually. And UN confirmed it, European Union confirmed it, and name-profit organizations like Amnesty International confirmed it. The only force with the international standard and discipline of military in the empire is the Oromo Liberation Army, or WOBO. The actors or the fictional writers in the region can't say anything about this armed group, but OLA has the highest standard of military, maybe comparable to the UN security forces. But WOBO has been protecting all citizens in the Oromian nation. As you know, they have never targeted any peaceful citizen. It can be Amhara, Tigray, and millions of Tigray Amharas live in Oromia, but none of them were targeted. But the fiction writers, of course, and the preemptive strategies, the national media, and so many other Amhara medias are talking about them, but they never killed a single peaceful citizen. Remember what happened to our students in Amhara region. They killed so many students and they dismissed. Millions of Amharas, Gurages, Tigres peacefully live in Oromia. We have never heard of a single case of attack against innocent citizens of all ethnic backgrounds in Oromia. That is incredible discipline and standard of military values, as we know. Thus, OLA or WOBO must be recognized to maintain peace, security, and the safety of all citizens in that empire.
Well, let me just say one thing at the end, you know, just for conclusion.
Okay.
My views about your presentation or your views, I respect it, but it's up to us. There is no one that is going to give you, hand out your freedom, hand out peace, hand out economic prosperity. It's up to you and me, up to the people. Now the challenge is, the mess we are in it is not the creation of someone else. By the way, you know, people brag that Ethiopia never been colonized and never been colonized. So if you compare Tanzania or Kenya to the so-called Ethiopia that's not colonized, you don't hear that kind of mess. You don't hear ethnic cleansing. You don't hear that at the level of rape. It's unheard of in Tanzania. Economy is much better. It grows by 5-6% continuously. Now these people are below zero. Economy is growing. So what do you see? Here is a problem. Here is the mess. Here is the foundation of the problem. Not the Western, not Russia. It is the uneducated people who consumed a century and a half propaganda, racist ideals of these so-called Amharas. And these people are uneducated, unwise. They fight for it. That's why they kill you, because of you questioning. That's why they're killing the Oromo man and woman, young and old. You know, even when they go out to protest somewhere on the street, in the developed country, in Germany or in France, they will insult you. They will name call you because they are uneducated. Now, is that really a problem only one single or single? I mean, like, it's multidimensional. We ourselves consumed inferiority complex. We accepted that norm. And so we didn't struggle enough to get rid of it. And democracy is, you know, not given to anyone. You remember Martin Luther King?
Yeah.
You have to ask for it. You have to fight for it. So I think whether it's a discrimination, whether it's a killing or the murder, it's only stop if we are organized and fight.
Yeah.
Increase our pressure, especially on a mentally sick person who can never be healed. I would repeat this. The guy is a pathological liar. The world knows it. And he is, sick. And by the way, there are sick people. There is a guy from Romania who just did exactly like him. How about Gaddafi? Gaddafi will call everyone mafias and lumpen, and he would call like homeless people who are protesting against me. My people love me, until he was pulled out of the some manhole and being killed.
Yeah.
Still talking. Haile Selassie was dead, was killed by the military, saying the same thing. So these people who are installed in power they are psychopaths. That's why we need to focus on our own struggle. But the fact that the Tigrayans are fighting and about to gain their independence, or at least they're gonna, if they wanna be part of this empire ever again, maybe they would accept the confederation instead of even federation. So it's whatever.
That's why the Oromo people is waiting for approval of somebody to accept their Ola, who are in a very amazing military discipline, who they never target peaceful people. The Amaras live in Oromia peacefully. The Tigrays live in peacefully.
Look,
let me say this. TPLF tried to make a fiction, a drama, a fake drama that OLF killed peaceful citizens, but WikiLeaks disproved that. And we read the fact that they created themselves, they killed peaceful citizens, and they tried to blame OLF. And OLF, or the Oromo Liberation Army, OLA, never killed a peaceful person in Oromia or in other states. And yet our people themselves, they need approval to support this group. They are 60 million people, more than 2/3 of the empire. And yet they are looking for approval from somebody. Who is that somebody who can approve to support their...
I keep saying that, look, we have adapted and accepted that we don't deserve the freedom. And by the way, even today, probably, I'm just assuming 65%, or at least 60% of our population, the Oromo population, still recognizes someone else instead of oneself. People who cannot recognize themselves, before they recognize themselves, their own face, looking in the mirror, cannot see their own flat nose and still try to be Arab. People who cannot recognize their name, still changing their name to Jamal or Kamal. People who are still cannot recognize their Tolasa name, still trying to become an Amhara. So without recognizing yourself, without wanting, understanding what are you looking for, recognizing yourself, you cannot fight for it. So the foundation of the whole problem is, first, people had to be recognized. They have to recognize who I am, a human being. I am equal. I have a value, a norm, a language, and I deserve to be respected. This is what I don't want. So if a person says, I am not what you think I am who I am, unless people start saying that, the freedom is way, way, way long ways to be earned. That's why. And by the way, there are so many global values that people accepted. Black devil, black market, black this, Black Zad, and White Angel, White God. I mean, we are really molded into self-hating. So unless we recognize who we are, we cannot really
Yeah, and
stand up and fight for what we want.
yeah, for example, there is another huge truth that we cannot deny. These people are unrealistic and completely ignorant. For example, what is your state? Is that Utah or
Utah, huh?
Utah? Okay, and the neighboring state?
Wyoming, Colorado.
Colorado. Let's take Colorado. Okay, and when you look at the Amara region and the Oromia state, and those people in Amhara region are trying to claim the cities in Oromia.
Of course.
How realistic is that? And what's going to happen if Colorado claims one of the cities in your state? What's going to happen in US?
Okay,
we can't even understand that fact. And
no, they don't.
Our people, look at the size of the truth behind these people. And yet we cannot be courageous enough to support our military to protect the values of these people and the state.
Look,
and Colorado cannot take a single penny out of your state without.
Well, that's a political arrangement that has been made for, by the United States of America. When everybody is joining that union, they agreed to do that, and they have representations, not fake ones, not fake.
Right.
But that's why. But the truth of the matter is this: look, when that so-called Ethiopian state was formed, how was it formed? Look, it is considered to be like one small village. So that small village took over the whole thing and said, "This is mine. You are my slave. You work for me." 33% of the land belongs to Orthodox Church. The rest of you will work. Your mom and dad will work. I can take your wife if she's good looking. I can take your property. I can remove you anytime you want. That was the foundation of the Ethiopian empire, the mindset. So even they came, if you called your city you were born in Ambo, they'll call it Hagarayot. They changed it for you, but not for you. They changed it to...
They prepare for themselves.
Yes, and they changed your region to Shawa, which is a name borrowed from Middle East. They changed it to, Waliso to Zion, which is Gion, Zion. So if Nazareth, Shawa, and Gion is named by them, and Finfinne was named by them into Addis Ababa, they feel like that's theirs. That's theirs. They renamed it. That's why they just say you are still supposed to understand your place. You are no place in challenging us because we were the owners. You speak our language. So so many things morphed into this way of thinking. And not only these people who came from the north, by the way, they're not Amharas. Their identity is shaped by the religion. So running away from oneself, self-hate, began by these so-called Amharas. That's why they don't like Hadama name. Still, it has to be. Even Jesus, they say, Jesus will be mad if he rises and comes to visit and find this Nazareth was converted into Hadama. And, that's what this Abiy's group is saying. Daniel Kibret was saying, what would happen? The Brazait is now renamed into this Oromo. This is unacceptable. It's ungodly. It's devilish. So this morphed into theology, into politics, into culture, into controlling. So all this mess is really produced by century worth confusion that we all are living with today. That's why.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rumdasa. We do see barbaric crimes in that empire against Oromos, against Tigris, against Kemat, Benishangul, Gums, Gambela, and Sidama people. And we therefore demand freedom for our people.
Yeah.
And especially, I would say the plan to eliminate 60 million people is illusion, which will never work. You will be, Mr. Abiy, you're gonna be consumed yourself before you eliminate 60 million people. And we demand freedom
you're
for
talking
our
to a
people.
psychopath man. He cannot hear you.
He doesn't hear, yeah, but
He's sick.
he will be forced to be consumed by himself because he can never, ever eliminate 60 million people. The truth prevails, the people, the Oromo people, Oromia will be free again. And with that, I'll stop our discussion here, but we're gonna come back.
Freedom cannot be curtailed, that's the truth. Human freedom cannot be curtailed, never. It's just a matter of time. It's a matter of time.
That's true. And we'll come back and talk about, after these guys spoke like barbaric ideas of eliminating people and what happened in Oromia, in Tigray, and in so many places in Gambela, Benishangul, Matakal, especially. They have killed so many hundreds of people, and over 50,000 Oromos are in prison right now. So we'll catch up again and we'll talk about those things. And
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dr.